Concerned what it hit for, cause I've still come to raise hell like Mephisto. Please don't front, cause I'll karate chop your lymph node. Noodle arm punk you punch and end up with your wrist.
Welcome to 3-Count Commentaries. Today we'll be doing a NXT War Games, not Takeover. Takeover has been removed. NXT War Games. We're going to be doing a prediction show, but we'll also be coupling that with Shawn Michaels, and talking about NXT 2.0, in which he nuked AEW from orbit and then continued moving on, and people got mad about it. So what did Shawn Michaels say? Let's begin there before we get into the predictions. Shawn was talking to Jim Varsalone about NXT 2.0. And this is the paragraph in question. Shawn said, Tuesday, we had 3 new superstars that are coming in. We've been doing this for 10 or 11 weeks, and still there are new, fresh faces coming in. I recognize that right now one of the really cool buzzwords in the business is, quote, producing new, young, fresh superstars. And they are actually people who have been around this job for 10 or 15 years, and they are just now making it to television. This is almost... And Shawn is running NXT, by the way. So since Triple H went down, Shawn is now running NXT, and he's been running NXT 2.0. Well, let me slow down for a second. Shawn is running NXT 2.0. He's also running NXT UK. He's been running NXT UK for a while. So the idea that it seems, but I understand that everybody in lockstep has just decided, F the independents, we're going to do our own thing over here. But there is a level of frustration that comes with all of this. Because I know that, yes, Scotty 2 Hotty and some other people have complained about the new direction, which is always going to happen. Whenever a company changes direction on something, there's going to be people who are not happy about it. Some people just don't like change. Some people's jobs are going to get harder because you have to work with greener talent. Some people's jobs are going to get easier because they have to work with greener talent. It's always going to be a mixed bag. If you move the water cooler from one side of the room to the other, there's going to be a certain amount of people who are going to be mad. So the idea there's people upset in backstage at NXT. I'm sure there are. I'm sure there's somebody whose friends got fired. I'm sure there's somebody who, now they have to deal with people they don't want to deal with. They used to be able to just rely on certain people to knock things out and get it done. And now those people are gone. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on. This is a transitory period. It always happens when you change something. If you work anywhere and they change a thing, it's going to be... These kinds of things happen, man. People get frustrated over changes. It is what it is. So that was the thing that kind of... When you had Shawn say this, and you're juxtaposing this with like the Scotty 2 Hotty thing, and Shawn's job is the same. He's producing the show. His job is the same. Only difference is he's not working with talent who's been around for a while, which they can still be cool and young, but you can't have 15 years of experience and still be 20, 22 years old. It just doesn't make any logical sense unless you're one of these Joshis and they scooped you out of a middle school and put you in a boot camp or something like that. Then you might be 19 with 15 years experience because they done snatched you out of your preschool and forced you to do pro wrestling training or something like that. But I thought it was nice. It was a nice little shot at AEW and, the dirt sheets and all that kind of stuff. So he continues, we are the only brand in the entire world that is bringing real, true life, young, fresh men and women that are going to be stars on Raw and SmackDown in the next 5 to 10 years. It's just that simple. And then he names some of the people who are going to be on TakeOver. He says numerous other people, you are watching their first, second, third, 10th matches. He said, Brian Breaker, Tony D'Angelo, they are going to go out there at War Games, one of our biggest shows of the year, and it's their 10th or 15th matches. Nobody has been thrown into the deep end like these young men and women have. They've done a fantastic job, and it's awesome to see. Yes, I agree with Shawn, which I know is tantamount to praying to... Moloch or something like that on the internet by saying Shawn Michaels is right about something. you might as well talk about being a devil worshiper. In any event, I think that he's correct. There's a downside to that, of course, them being so green. But giving them that exposure, giving them that television exposure especially, is good, because that has always been the problem with NXT. You have guys, and look, the same people who are complaining about NXT 2.0 were the same people who would say stuff like, this guy's been in the business for 30 years and he's now all of a sudden he doesn't know where the cameras are. And literally, there's like footage of Finn Balor not knowing where the cameras were. Literally, him asking where the cameras are. So you have to, and then of course there's WWE things that that we can say is unnecessary. For instance, Austin talked about not working the cameras, and then Drew McIntyre had the opposite thing where they're taught to work the cameras. You know, certain companies, you could grab a chin lock for something like that. WWE doesn't want you to turn your back to the hard cam. So you'll often see that people will avoid turning their back to the hard camera. In other companies, they don't care. The cameraman will just switch scenes, which is probably feels more natural to the wrestler, is that you're going to just switch scenes. The cameraman's going to find the spot. You just work the match. Instead of the cameraman and the wrestler kind of working together, where the cameraman, you're just agreeing to work a match that is going to be favorable to the cameras, which is, again, not appropriate. Even I will agree with that. I think that the cameraman should just do his fucking job and find the good shot. Find the right shot, okay? This is probably the Kevin Dunn input into the show, where he wants his cameramen to, you know, be stationary, or, you know, make their job easier, would make the job of the wrestler actually harder. It's because now you have to know where the cameras are because you can't turn your back to the camera. So that's just basically one of the things. Another thing is being able to sell up. This is something that you keep your face visible. So you'll often see wrestlers, they'll be in a chin lock and they'll move hair out of their face. You know, it's like, you know, they try to do it as fast as possible, and especially in WWE, they try to move hair out of their face or something like that, and it just takes you out in the moment, you know, because they're trying to sell with their face, and also they hate when people sell downward. So somebody who sells with their face down is, you know, going to definitely get chewed out. Eric Young was one of the people who talked about this, saying that everybody doesn't sell the same. But when you're in WWE, they want you to sell a certain way. And selling with your head down is not something they want to deal with. Blocking is another thing that a lot of people are at loggerheads about. Ken Anderson talked about this, that Shawn hated it. Undertaker didn't mind it. For TV purposes, the audience probably doesn't want you to block because they want you to be able to sell, so you need to be able to see you. So you'll have that kind of stuff going on. And that's what we mean when we say bad habits of the independents. You know, overworking, not letting things breathe, not knowing how to sell or when to sell. Selling in silly ways where you'll be selling for a minute, then you'll hit a huge comeback, and then you'll go back to selling. That makes no sense. Okay, that's stupid. And I see that shit far too often now. But that's the kind of stuff that they deal with in NXT. And Shawn basically just coming out and saying, oh, yeah, you know, we're dealing with, you know, really green talent here. Real fresh talent. These people are young and never worked TV before. And I'm pretty sure that's better for them and better for their system, as they don't have to go through and retrain a bunch of people who then go online and say, I know what I'm doing. You don't need you to tell me what to do. I know what I'm doing. And they're like, you know, these guys are 22. They know they don't know what they're doing, so they're just going to shut up and listen. You know, it's probably easier for them. All right, so let's now get into the War Games predictions. There's only 5 matches on this show, so the prediction shouldn't be too bad. Match 1, Cameron Grimes versus Duke Hudson, hair versus hair. All right, so usually when you have a hair versus hair match, both competitors have long hair, even if they grew their hair out specifically for the purpose of cutting it. In this instance, Duke Hudson's hair is not that long. Second instance is they've already kind of begun cutting Cameron Grimes' hair. I still think that Duke Hudson is going to lose. A lucha de apuestas match usually is won by the babyface, or it should be won by the babyface rather, because humiliating the heel is important. So I definitely think, but Duke Hudson needs to win. The problem I have with this is I don't have any idea what Cameron Grimes is going to look like with his head completely shaved. That would be a mess, and I think that would be a missed opportunity. I think you go ahead and have Cameron Grimes cut Duke Hudson's hair. All right, the NXT Tag Team Championship. Imperium, which consists of Fabian Eichner and Marcel Bartel, versus Kyle O'Reilly and Von Wagner. This Cro-Magnon Von Wagner, I'm pretty sure he got acromegaly. I would not be surprised if, like, in a couple of months or something like that, we start seeing that this guy's got acromegaly. He just looks like an ogre. You know, he's an ogre of a human being. I'm not saying that he's a young guy. Give him an opportunity. I think he should be wearing a mask, though. And I think he should be wearing a mask, like, for sure. Like, he needs, like, a gimmick. You know, like a full, you know, he should be like Nails or something like that. Like, he needs, like, a bodysuit and a mask and, you know, some haunting music or something like that. Something fun. Because I think just as regular, Von Wagner, this guy sucks. Okay, he absolutely sucks in this role. And Kyle O'Reilly is is unsalted saltine. He sucks. I like Imperium, but this is going to be tough to sit through. I can tell you that right now. I already know I'm going to have a tough time with this one. I'm going to go with Imperium, though. I'm going to go with Eichner and Bartel. NXT Cruiserweight Championship, Roderick Strong versus Joe Gacy. I'm a huge fan of Joe Gacy. I love his character. I love what he's doing. Roderick Strong, great wrestler, has the charisma of a dead battery. I just have no idea what people find intriguing outside of the mechanical aspects of a Roderick Strong match about Roderick Strong. You know, it's been like this for years though. Like, I knew Roderick Strong was a bland breadstick when he was in Ring of Honor, when he was in TNA, the Messiah of the Backbreakers. I hated that shit. The only time I really was a huge fan of Roderick Strong wasn't even Undisputed Era. It was before Undisputed Era, when they did this really great storyline. When he was in NXT, the Black and Gold, of course. When he was feuding with Robert Roode, and they were talking about his parents, and they were talking about his wife, and they were talking about his family. That really seemed to bring out the best of Roderick Strong. And if he was going to be NXT champion, that would have been the time to do it. They built up to this excellent match between Roderick Strong and Robert Roode. It was fantastic shit. That was the time that I was a fan of Roderick Strong. Now I see him as an in-ring trainer. He's a player coach. So I wouldn't mind if he lost. You know, a lot of people are going to be on eggshells about what happens to the NXT Cruiserweight title. But I don't think NXT cares about that Cruiserweight title. And to be quite honest, I don't think they've cared about it for a long time. There will be times where, like, Santos Escobar was the champion, he would go long periods of time without even defending it. You know, they've kind of blown the division up too when they released all those people from 205 Live. So they had a complete division that was built up, but people kind of, you know, didn't want it. They were not interested. You know, the Cruiserweight title matches didn't really draw. The Cruiserweight title tournament, when they had one, didn't really draw. Nobody watched 205 Live. You know, this whole Cruiserweight experience seems to, again, be a failure. And I think that part of it is just the lack of dedication to the concept. You know, I'm a full believer that Cruiserweight wrestling can work. I just think that WWE just doesn't know how to build and work lighter weight classes. And what they do is they pigeonhole them, which, of course, you can't. That's kind of how it is. It's the same way in UFC where, you know, a guy is a lighter weight class, but he can always move up. You know, a guy wins a welterweight belt or something like that, he can always move up. You know, or he can move down in some cases. So he's not completely and totally pigeonholed, but in WWE, he kind of is. You know, he only really wrestles people in that division and only And when they move him out of that division, they turn him into a job guy. I mean, Mustafa Ali, Buddy Murphy, Cedric Alexander. It's just so many times they've done that. And it was the same thing as, a guy being hot in NXT, and then you move him to Raw and he's not over and nobody cares. But they really tried this time with 205 Live. They even gave 205 Live storylines, and people still was not watching the show. So now that, there's this fear that they're going to blow up the Cruiserweight title, there's people are like, oh, they didn't give it a chance. I'm like, well, they tried. They built a whole program around the Cruiserweight title. You just didn't watch it, So I think for the purposes of maybe making the Cruiserweight title interesting, you do have somebody take it for a while, do something different with it, and then maybe you have somebody else restore it to its former glory. Why not have Joe Gacy win the title, make it all-inclusive, the NXT all-inclusive championship or something, some nonsense like that. And, you let him run with that for a little while. You have to set a boundary to make it special, though, because like I said, all the titles are essentially open weight. And the women's title, or the top NXT title, is essentially gender neutral. The women's title is only for women. The tag team titles are only for tag teams, but the North American title is essentially gender neutral and open weight. So you have to find a way to make this title special. And I think if they were to turn it into a TV belt and reinstate time limits, that would be a better usage of the title. But I don't think Joe Gacy's character was interested in that. So I want to know what the plan is for Gacy to win. But I also like the idea of not knowing. Sometimes not knowing is its own adventure. There's safety and doing something chaotic or doing something safe, and just having Roderick Strong win and maintain the Cruiserweight division as it is. But then there's also something very exciting about the concept of the Cruiserweight title is on a guy who weighs 245 pounds. Now he's going to get rid of it. So what are we going to do with it? And then that's a draw for people who might be like, okay, they put the title on this guy who's fucking huge. Is he just going to be like big guy Cruiserweight champion? What's going to happen? I'm very interested in that. Women's War Games match. Dakota Kai and Toxic Attraction. Mandy Rose, Gigi Dolan, JC Jane versus Raquel Gonzalez, Cora Jade, Io Shirai, and Kaylee Ray. They did the unthinkable and gave the baby faces the the advantage in this match, which is 100% of the time stupid. Having 2 War Games matches, all that kind of stuff is definitely stuff we can complain about, but I'm of the opinion that complaining about something that's going to happen every year there's no point into it. Like complaining that there's going to be 2 Royal Rumbles every year. It's like, okay, yeah, but we're at that point. So we don't really need to have 2 War Games matches, but we're at that point now. I think in order to build contenders for Mandy and the tag team championships, you're probably going to have the baby faces win. So I would probably see Kaylee Ray getting the decisive win for her team, likely beating JC Jane, who I think is the most beatable of the people in this match. So I could definitely see either Io Shirai or Kaylee Ray getting the pin. And them being the next contender for Mandy Rose. As far as the tag team is concerned, I don't know. I think they've been doing Casey Catanzaro and Kaden Carter. They've been waiting their turn for a while. So I don't see why they're not in this match. It seems like they would make more sense to be in this, but whatever. Cora Jade she needs a breakout moment in this match in order to justify even being in it. She is the lowest ranking woman in the match. So she needs to do something. Jump off something, be set on fire, fall through thumbtacks or something. She needs to bleed or something in order to justify being in this match. She might be the purest babyface in the match too, because she's the least experienced. She's the smallest, and I think Io is smaller, but so she needs something big in order to justify being in the match. Everyone else is good. Men's War Games match: Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, Pete Dunne, and LA Knight representing NXT Black and Gold versus Carmelo Hayes, Grayson Waller, Braun Breaker, and Tony D'Angelo representing NXT 2.0. Likewise, Grayson Waller needs to do something in this match to stand out from everybody else. He needs to do something. He has an ill-defined character, an ill-defined motivation. And they basically started this feud in a very weird way with him and LA Knight arguing about who's going to be the Halloween host. So since he was involved with something that was utterly silly, he needs to do something to stand out in this match and to gain an edge. And, something to inform us of what the hell Grayson Waller is and what his character is and is about. Personally, I definitely think that the 2.0 kid should win, and that Braun Breaker is probably going to end up pinning LA Knight in order to avoid him pinning Tommaso Ciampa. But I think they're going back to Ciampa, Braun Breaker for a title match too. So that ought to be interesting. I don't know. Are they going to be doing New Year's Evil this year? If they're doing New Year's Evil, I can definitely see them going Braun Breaker and Tommaso Ciampa again. I would like for them to move away from that. At least make Braun Breaker actually chase by putting other people in his way. Of course, a lot of people think this is the last stop for Johnny Gargano, and it wouldn't be too upsetting for me because I'm not a big fan of Johnny Gargano. There's also been some talk of Gargano going up to the main roster and kind of taking Daniel Bryan's spot. But that sounds like internet horseshit to me. Nobody. I'm sure nobody told Vince that he's supposed to be the replacement for Daniel Bryan. But I could see that. I could see that if you say, hey, we're missing something with Daniel Bryan as far as somebody being the heart and soul of the roster, I definitely see Johnny Gargano being that guy. He can fill that role. But I think he feels it much better in NXT as opposed to moving him to SmackDown or something like that, where he's gonna be a fucking midget, man. So I don't see that working out too much for him on Raw or SmackDown, even though he's a good worker when he actually works and not just runs in circles and slaps his thigh. Everybody else I think is pretty cool. I think Pete Dunne's gonna be in NXT forever though. I don't see too much success for him outside of it. If anything, they might just ship his ass back to NXT UK. Carmelo Hayes is going to be a star. Braun Breaker, of course, and Tony D'Angelo, they're going to be good. Ciampa, I don't know. But I think Ciampa and Gargano, those guys are basically player coaches. The same with Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly. I don't see a huge light at the end of the tunnel for them. They're basically going to be the iron, the steel that sharpens these young guys, and they need to have that in NXT. So I'm okay with all of that. They did not get rid of Timothy Thatcher, so I'm questioning: is it possible that Timothy Thatcher doesn't run in or something like that in this match, and maybe he cost Tommaso Ciampa? There's also the concept of Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe has not been seen since he gave up the title. Is it possible that at the end of this match or something like that, Samoa Joe appears? Let's shake it up. I think they're doing a special where usually they kind of just got rid of the takeover concept. But if they're going to keep doing these special events, even if they're not going to do them in big arenas like they were doing big takeovers before, if they're just going to keep doing them out of the performance center, then you still need to bring some shocking developments. Get people to watch things on Tuesday. Don't just end the show with these guys won. Bring back somebody. Bring in somebody. Inject some fresh energy into the show. Debut somebody. Shit. Why not bring somebody out there who's never been on the show before? Try to bring back a little bit of the old NXT energy, because that's what you need. That was the best thing about NXT, was the energy. You can bring some of that back, and I think they should try it. You know, have somebody have like a new signing sit in the crowd or something. You know, that's old school NXT right there. They need something like that in order to really get people talking about this card. You know, otherwise it's just going to be good match, good match, good match. Oh yeah, good match, good match, good match. Oh, it's so sad that Kyle is leaving and Johnny's leaving. But I'm saying shake it up. You know, do something nobody would expect. But let me know what you guys think about all of this stuff I discussed in this video. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, donate to the channel. Thank you guys for your time, and I will talk to you guys later.